I'm gonna be completely transparent. Epitome of Episodes Season 1 was a nightmare engulfed in a disaster. Unlike others, I'm not opposed to critiquing my own content. I've realized that some of my reviews have fallen flat, but they pale in comparison to the utter embarrassment I feel for Epitome of Episodes Season 1. Firstly, it had just dawned on me how ridiculous the title was. The word epitome means a thing that is the example of a grand scale of other things, like how figures in a landscape is the epitome of an unsung masterpiece. When you think about it, a series revolving around reviewing episodes being the center of episodes sounds idiotic. When I came up with the title, I subconsciously knew it wasn't the greatest choice, but unfortunately I couldn't think of anything better, and I have nobody to blame but myself. So to correct this enormous oversight, I've decided to change the title of this review series to Streed's Guide. Sure, it's not that original, but at least it actually matches with the core of the series itself. As I was saying, Season 1 was a complete mess. While I am decently proud of certain episodes like my review of Marooned Beginnings, a lot of the first season's episodes were rushed and late with varying quality. Sometimes I sum up my thoughts seamlessly, unfortunately bogged down by the awful 2008-esque audio, and as the season went along, the pacing as well got worse and worse, with me playing clips for far too long to pad out the runtime. I noticeably stuttered a lot too, and the editing was very jarring and poorly crafted. Luckily, I've learned from my mistakes and vow to one day remake the first 20 episodes. I won't go George Lucas and butcher the goddamn thing into oblivion, but I'm still not very proud of it, and I'd like to improve it in a way. There's a lot more noticeable flaws I could mention for Season 1, but it's time for contemporary peregrinations. This will be a refined era. Epitome of Episodes has faded into the abyss. Now it's time for Streed's Guide to Fraggle Rock. This episode starts out with Doc returning home, disgruntled that his latest invention, the freeze-dried erasers paper, was rejected from Inventors Monthly.
I'm sick of all this sprocket. I'm going back to the job I had before I took up inventing. I'm going back to being a barber again.
Gobo enters the workshop but gets spooked by Sprocket and flees. He musters up the courage to go back in but gets frightened. Starts to believe he's lost his impeccable nerve. We get a flashback to when Gobo first decided to become an explorer. I really love the design of this cave, and the wide shot gives this scene more of a grand scale to it.
What are you going to do with the rest of your life?
Well, I'd really like to be a juggler.
Excellent! I knew you'd want to be an explorer just like me.
What?
Gobo returns to Fraggle Rock downtrodden, and he's bombarded by Boober asking him to go to the Squeaky Caverns for his laundry. To relieve his tension, Gobo reads a postcard from his Uncle Traveling Matt. Uncle Matt stumbles across a sheep farm and believes the silly creature shaving the sheep is the equivalent to stripping them, feeling it's undignified. After this, Gobo sings a beautiful song about his deep inner struggle and turmoil. It's very quiet and reflective. It genuinely tugs at your heartstrings, especially at this part.
I know that no one's made of steel. I sometimes think that nothing's real.
Red enters the room in a jovial mood, and she hints that Boober and Wimbley stumbled into the Great Outer Maze because Gobo accidentally gave them the wrong directions. Alarmed, Gobo hurries to the Great Outer Maze to rescue them. The maze is honestly one of my favorite Fraggle Rock locations. It's such an eerie and frightening place.
This is terrible. Wembley! Boober! Wembley! Boober!
Back in the workshop, Doc uses Sprocket to test his barbering abilities and gets a fantastic idea. Meanwhile, back in Fraggle Rock, Red and Wimbley are in Gobo's room, when suddenly Boober and Wimbley return. They sing a quick little song until Boober and Wimbley reveal they never entered the Great Outer Maze. Back in the maze, Gobo's looking quite disheveled, feeling exhausted from his perilous trek in the Great Outer Maze. And this scene used to terrify me as a kid.
Way.
Gobo returns in an irritable mood, claiming he's giving up exploring forever. Annoyed, he tells his friends to leave. Meanwhile, in the maze, the invisible gargoyle is enraged and breaks free. Back in the Great Hall, the bunch are wondering why Gobo's so upset when Red comes up with a dumb idea to cheer him up.
No! Help! Oh, help!
It is awful! It is tragic! We are all going to die!
The Fraggle suggests Gobo find a new job while Wembley annoys him with his siren call. All this stress leads to Gobo singing a really catchy blues song about his endless troubles.
You tell me you got troubles, brother. Let me tell you mine. Take your crummy troubles, brother. Hang 'em on the line.
Soon after Gobo leaves, the invisible gargoyle enters Fraggle Rock and wreaks chaos, sending the Fraggles into a frenzy. Meanwhile, Gobo ponders how his Uncle Matt will react to him giving up exploring.
Well done, Gobo! I like a Fraggle who knows his own mind, and juggling is a noble career.
You really think so?
Why, certainly. If I had to do it over again, I would do exactly the same. I would be a juggler, too.
The bunch enter Gobo's room in a panic, pleading with Gobo to defeat the gargoyle. At first, he doesn't believe them until the gargoyle passes through the cave, and Gobo summons up his bravery and heads to the great outer maze to defeat the gargoyle. All seems hopeless until Gobo sparks an idea.
Yeah, Wembley's siren. Whoa, here it comes. And it looks angry. Oh, yeah. Ho-ho!
Even as a kid, I thought this was really odd. It's never really established whether the gargoyle was a physical being or a spiritual one. Earlier when it breaks free, it moves a few boulders out of its way to escape, but for some unexplainable reason, it's able to get trapped once again using a small entrance into the hole. It's also quite inconsistent how Gobo disturbed the gargoyle in the first place by accidentally shifting a few rocks, when moments earlier he was literally shouting for Wembley and Boober. Anyways, Gobo returns to Fraggle Rock and discovers he doesn't want to give up being an explorer after all. The Fraggles thank him for saving their lives. Now that his nerve's back, Gobo heads confidently back into the workshop and gets the postcard. Meanwhile, Doc completes his masterpiece in the art of barbering.
I'm going to write to everyone and tell them about my canine whisker wax. Oh, Sprocket. We're going to be famous.
This was a marvelously dramatic episode, touching up upon self-doubt in one's career. You empathize with Gobo's situation and hope for his success. The songs, as per usual, were amazing as well, with my favorite being Once Upon a Time I Knew My Name. It's a really beautiful, heartbreaking melody about Gobo's uncertainty, and it never fails to move me in a profound way. As for my criticisms, I thought the invisible gargoyle was a pretty disappointing monster. It's never made clear whether it's a physical being or a spiritual one, but I guess it does its job by bringing Gobo out of his despair to defeat it. Overall, I'm gonna rate this a Radish. It seamlessly explores a different side to Gobo we don't see very often. Well guys, that was the review, and I will see you all next time.